This is part 1 of 3 of Delegate Miyares' interview. Hope you enjoy! So today, civics class, I'm interviewing Delegate Miyares, and he represents part of Virginia Beach. So let's get started. What got you into politics?
What got me into politics? A lot of reasons, but probably is my family story. My mother fled Cuba in 1965 when she was 19. She was penniless and she was homeless, and at that time the government took everything away from her, and she fled Cuba, and so she installed in me an incredible appreciation for what I call the American miracle, and so when the time came that I could serve, I had 2 previous opportunities to run and had said no, but I finally felt like it was the right time to go ahead and get back to my community.
Why did you want to become a state delegate specifically?
Well, in my opinion, there's so much you could do at a state level that helps Virginians. We are a 400-year-old institution, as you know. We're 170 years older than Congress, so the General Assembly has a rich tradition. But I love Virginia. Virginia has been good for me, and the idea of being able to give back and improve a city and a state that I love and adore is just has really been the biggest honor of my life by far.
Who is your role model?
Well, I have this wonderful Ronald Reagan bobblehead that my legislative aide gave me, and you can see I have a quote from President Reagan. But there's a lot of leaders I admire, but off the top of my head, I've always admired President Reagan's kind of unbridled optimism and the very best in America. And President Reagan said something in his first inaugural that's always stuck with me. He said, "How can you claim to love your country if you don't first love your fellow countrymen?" And that has really stuck with me. I think at a time when our political culture has gotten pretty coarse, I think all of us, I don't care what political persuasion you come from, I think all of us can probably heed his words. So he is one of many, but probably one of my favorite people that I look up to.
What is your biggest contribution to the Commonwealth?
Well, I think every delegate here would probably say the same answer, I would think, which would be their judgment. I try to come up here with the idea of being a thoughtful representative of my constituents, and I give them my judgment. And so I try to do that every day, both in reading the bills and determining is this... but I always say this, and I say this for a lot of people who come to see me, I don't vote on ideas, I vote on bills. And what that means is oftentimes it's a good idea, but the bill the 3 questions I always ask anybody who comes to see me is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? How does this bill solve the problem? And what's the law of unintended consequences? And I think that last question too often is not really contemplated by a lot of our legislators. And so I always try to anticipate, okay, if this passes, what is the unintended consequences that could actually create more problems than what we're trying to solve? And so I've always tried to have that sense of thoughtful representation and judgment to the job.
What is your favorite bill you've ever patroned?
My favorite bill I've ever patroned? Well, I would say that in the short term, just because it came to mind, and I think it's a great example of just how this body works, is I had a constituent that came to me, a small business owner, who said, listen, I have these 2 dynamic women that work for me, and the constituent came to me was also a female business owner that just recently had children, and I don't want to lose them. They are just so important to my company, they're dynamic, and I literally want to provide for these 2 workers childcare on site, so they don't have to leave or take extended leave of absence. Just this morning, it's just on my mind, passed out of the Senate committee unanimously as well, and it's basically if you're a business owner, up to 4 children at one time, and the parent or guardian is on site and can resume their parenting tasks, you could provide this child care. And to me, that's the very best. We call this a citizen legislature, and I think that's what it is. I'm only up here 60 days a year, and then I'm back home. All 3 of my kids are in local Virginia Beach public schools. I deal with the same issues every one of my fellow citizens deal with traffic and other concerns. And so I think that's just a great example of why I enjoy the General Assembly so much, is I could take an idea that someone mentioned to me almost in passing, and I could research it, I could try to find a legislative solution. Hopefully it will be signed by the governor.
Hope you you enjoyed part 1 of 3 of Delegate Miyares' interview. Also, thank you so much, Miranda Lewis, for filming this segment.